Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump, or Trump Republicans, won a huge victory in federal court. Ohio federal judge blocks Biden administration from enforcing tax cut ban in stimulus package. So, this is very interesting. Columbus, Ohio. A federal judge in Ohio has blocked the Biden administration from preventing Ohio from using money it got from a federal relief bill to pay for tax cuts, ruling in favor of a lawsuit from State Attorney General Dave Yost. Congress designed the American Rescue Plan Act, which will send billions in federal funds to state and local governments in Ohio so that states could not use the money to pay for tax cuts. But U.S. Southern District of Ohio Judge Douglas R. Cole wrote, quote, "The tax mandates language falls short of what settled law requires in terms of such clarity, and issued a permanent injunction blocking the U.S. Treasury Department from enforcing it in Ohio. The ruling is narrowly written so that it does not apply nationwide." Cole is a 2019 appointee of then-President Donald Trump. Yost, a Republican, issued a statement calling the decision a win. "The Biden administration reached too far, seized too much, and got its hand slapped," Yost said. "This is a monumental win for the preservation of the U.S. Constitution. The separation of power is real, and it exists for a reason." Here's the issue that, Democrats talk about wealth inequality, rightfully so. The areas of the country that are most unequal, where there's the greatest disparity in wealth, are Democratic-run states. This is a fact. Democratic-run cities. This is a fact. The greatest disparity of wealth you've ever seen in your life is in Los Angeles and New York. You have some of the richest people in the world, and you have some of the poorest people in the world as well. These are Democratic-run states with morally superior, oftentimes apoplectic liberals. So I'm reading from a Cleveland Plain Dealer article, and the issue with tax cuts is that whether you agree with them or not, it is a fact that they either spur economic growth or are always linked to economic growth. You could talk about debt, you could talk about other issues, but tax cuts are meant to grow the economy. We had record low unemployment. The Dallas Federal Reserve, during President Trump's administration, stated that the gross domestic product increased by a substantial percentage because of the tax cuts. That's a fact. You can't say that tax cuts don't increase economic activity. They do. You can say that, they lead to other problems. They're not good in the long term. These are arguments you can make. Fine. But the focus now is bringing back the economy. There shouldn't be a focus on infrastructure. There should be a focus on generating wealth. Money, honey. The same money that Democrats earn from writing stories about how Trump is just about to get indicted eventually. You'll see one of these days. So President Trump, yet again, evaded indictments because guess what? They found nothing on him. But this is interesting. The Biden administration is more focused on giving money to states. Their emphasis is on giving money to states. So a key element of the new state budget approved this week is a personal income tax cut projected to cause the state. Meanwhile, Governor signed a bill last week that spends $2.2 billion. The Democratic-controlled Congress wrote a provision. So it's supposed to generate economic activity. The rebuttal as well, it's you have to pay for it somehow, and the government is losing revenue. But people are saving more money on their own. I mean, people are saving more money from taxes. So the agency could appeal to higher court. The U.S. Treasury Department's spokesperson said agency officials are considering their next steps, so they definitely don't want tax cuts. They definitely don't want tax cuts. Republican state legislative leaders, while designing the budget, said they were unconcerned about the prohibitions, in part citing Yost's lawsuit. So what they want to do is cut taxes so people save more of their money. if you don't spend money on tax, if you don't pay taxes, so hit subscribe to this channel right now, because I'm going to give you the arguments from Trump Republicans that focus on generating wealth and Democrats that focus only on a view of morality, oftentimes distorted, that says tax cuts are bad because while they generate wealth, in the long run, the government doesn't have money to give to government agencies that help when the economy is tanked. So their emphasis is not rebuilding the economy. Their emphasis is on ending society as we know it because of science, which people just end up going to Costco and then flooding supermarkets and spending time in long lines in close proximity within grocery stores and liquor stores and other places, or retail chains. So you're not really like, when you've ended society as we know it, you haven't really ended society. Because guess what? People then form very long lines in close proximity, in tight locations, in enclosed spaces, in buildings like Target and Walmart, and businesses that always stay open no matter what. Then you have parties in Los Angeles and New York and other major cities where young people are just going to have, even the mayor of Los Angeles said, hey, you know what, we're going to shut down power to ensure that people don't flaunt regulations. But here, that's a Cleveland Plain Dealer article. Columbus Dispatch. A federal court on Thursday ruled that President Joe Biden's Treasury Department cannot enforce a rule prohibiting the use of relief funds for tax cuts. The Biden administration reached too far. Ohio and at least 20 other Republican-led states took issue with the rule, arguing that it violated and infringed upon the state's taxing authority. It also threw a wrench into state Republicans' initial plans nationwide to use some of the extra money for increased tax cuts. So, this is before the lawsuit. Okay, so a preliminary injunction to stop the rule was denied, partly because Ohio had not opted into the plan then. And so they're allowed to cut taxes. When Ohio legislators enact a lower rate on given tax, they may do so based on the belief that actual tax collection will go up. So tax collection does go up, and when wealth is generated or the economy increases or the GDP increases within a state, you can look. I was looking here at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The greatest decrease, so percentage change from preceding period in real gross domestic product, state and region. Last year, the greatest decrease in gross domestic product was in places like Pennsylvania, New York. You can look right in New Jersey. They have the highest unemployment rates as well. Delaware, Vermont. And you can see like Nebraska, South Dakota, Kansas had less of a decrease. Mississippi, North Carolina. So these are, Texas did better than the Democratic run states that I mentioned. So anyway, I'm not going to get into like the debate over tax cuts. Tax cuts do generate economic growth, or they're linked to economic growth. You can say that, like we had record low unemployment, it still wasn't good enough for AOC. Oh, people are working 2 jobs. Well, okay, they're getting more money. They're getting money. The greatest wealth inequality is in New York. Okay, and of course, the greatest wealth inequality is in New York. The greatest, the worst statistics and numbers in terms of the pandemic. We can go on and on. The highest unemployment rates. So you should be able to use funds in the manner that you want. See, if these federal funds are aimed at growing your economy because Democrats gleefully, and it was primarily Democrats, they were Republicans, but it was primarily Democrats who gleefully tanked the economy, of course, for no other ulterior motive than to save lives, which Andrew Cuomo didn't do when he put infected people into elderly care facilities. But when you tank the economy, and you then say, well, we're going to give you money, without an emphasis on, we're going to help you get back on your feet and build up an economy to where there's jobs and there's economic growth, that's a problem. And the Republican perspective, or Trump's perspective, is focused solely on generating economic growth. Democrats are focused primarily on utilizing government to rectify problems caused by Democrats gleefully tanking the economy because of science. And again, you didn't have to do that. Okay, you could look at Sweden and you could compare Sweden to the UK, France, Spain, Italy. Sweden did much better, and they had they had none of the draconian policies that the other countries did, including our own. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel.